Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Black at It's Jorginho on Twitter if you want to follow me there. And welcome to the 8th episode of WeShow Euro 2020. Thank you very much for joining us. And please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the WeShow Football YouTube channel. So as usual, I'll be introducing my panel. And first, I'm going to introduce Rob. No, I'm just joking. Rob's not here. But if he does come, he will be giving us some in the know knowledge of what he knows from England. So yeah, but we do have David as usual. It's usually just us, isn't it? Hey, David, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, you're going to have to put up with just me today.
I love it. Well, no problem. We've been doing this. We're good at it by now. So, and when Rob comes, if he does come, he'll be able to give us that inside knowledge. So what we want to talk about today is do a little match review of the two matches that we had for the semifinals, which, quite frankly, I found very exciting. Once again, I was not let down again. So let's talk about Italy versus Spain. The game ended 1-1 and then went into penalties. So how did you feel about the game? Just what is your overall feeling about how it went? Do you think it's fair that Italy went through? Were they the better team for you? What did you think?
I think overall, Italy deserved to be in the final. They've been, for me, the best team in general, really, when you consider their entire campaign since the tournament started. But I think that was very, very unfair on Spain if we take that as a standalone game. I think Spain were far better throughout the game, really. And for me, they were very, very hard done by to end up on the losing side.
Yeah, I think it was a lot closer than I maybe imagined it being. I thought Italy would look super comfortable, and I don't really think it quite that way. But ultimately, as a neutral, what you want to see is a quite close game. And even though Spain ended up on the losing side, I just want to maybe give a little bit of time to talk about Pedri. And Luis Enrique had some really nice comments to say about him. I mean, he's 18 years old, and for most of the tournament displaced even somebody like Thiago, who's quite experienced, So what did you think about his showing in the tournament and what his future could be,
Well, you beat me to it, to be honest. I mean, I thought he was the standout player. I was just looking back at the game and his tournament in general, really, and he's covered the most distance at the tournament, 76.14 kilometers. And I just think that's absolutely incredible for an 18-year-old who his first major tournament with Spain after the season he's had. He could be forgiven for being tired after his first season in the first big season in the men's game with Barcelona. But he's just carried on into the tournament and has been, Spain's standout player. He's also made the most key passes of any player at the tournament with 31. If you think Koke is next with 19, that's a big gap. Insigne, who we expect to see in the final, has 18. So you've got an 18-year-old kid who's outperforming players that are twice his age, players that have got 10, 12 years more experience than him. And he's also had the most solo attacking runs in the final third. So he's just been a wonderful player for Spain so far. And I imagine him together with Ansu Fati will be the future for that team. So despite the disappointment of obviously losing in a semi-final, I think there's a lot for Spain to build on.
What do you think Morata can take from this tournament? He scores the goal, to get Spain back into the game, but then misses a penalty. So what do you think he can take from the tournament? Do you think he silenced the haters or kind of kept the conversation going with his showing in the semifinal?
Well, I mean, we did see the best and the worst of Alvaro Morata. And it was a wonderful goal, a beautiful 1-2 to get into the box. And then obviously with his left foot to send the keeper the wrong way and just slot it in. I mean, it was such a composed finish when you think Spain are chasing the game at this point and trying to take the game into extra time. But obviously, we've also seen the part of Alvaro Morata where he's possibly in his head a bit too much, where the pressure can get to him. And really, if he's scoring that chance, he should really be then following that up with the penalty. But a bit disappointed from Morata. I think still everything that happened off the field on social media with all the death threats that he and his family received, it's obviously very hard for a player to receive that stuff at any time, never mind in the midst of a tournament. So I think we saw that Morata is not a bad player. He's he's able to score goals, able to take them well, but also we saw that he's very much a striker, you know, in the sense that they, above all players in any position on the field, for me, that's the one where you really need the confidence. And if you've got a confidence as a striker, we're seeing it with Harry Kane now. You know, the first 3 games, he's unrecognizable from the start of the tournament. And that's something I think Morata's often struggled with and probably might do moving forward. But yeah, so a bit, I'd say 50-50 for me in terms of his tournament as a whole.
Yeah, but if you would have told me that, you know, Spain would have gotten to the semifinals and lost on penalty kicks, you know, when the tournament first started, I probably would have looked at you a little bit crazy, because they kind of grew into the tournament. They were quite disappointing in the group stages. So I think ultimately they could probably take this as a sign of maybe things to come, maybe just they just need to improve on certain things. But as you said, the younger players like Pedri and hopefully Ansu Fati can help be the new core to build the team around, because they definitely need some new things to look forward to. But before we get off of, you know, this semifinal, let's talk about Italy and another young player in Chiesa, who I think has been very he's been very good. Like, I've been very impressed with him. So, and he scored the goal in the 60th minute, you know, to give Italy the lead. So, what have you made of his tournament? And if you had to compare like him or Pedri, who do you think is having or has had the better tournament so far?
Oh, that's a tough one, Jess. That's a real tough one. You put me on the spot there. To start with Chiesa, I think he's been brilliant for Italy. I think he has, you know, perfectly blended so well and perfectly, almost seamlessly, with Immobile up front, with Lorenzo Insigne on the left. I think that 3 is a real good blend for Mancini, and are going to cause England a lot of problems. And I think in that semi-final, we probably didn't see the best of Italy. You know, at the start of the tournament, they were playing this free-flowing attacking football, and we were seeing all the attributes of these forward players. But I think as the tournament has progressed, you know, we've started to see more the defensive side of Italy, the team that we kind of expected Italy to play. You know, that Italian defensive, you know, resolute way of playing. So I think ultimately with someone like Chiesa, it's going to be very interesting to see if Italy take the game to England and they play to his strengths that way, or they play on the counter and use his pace to get him behind. And as you mentioned, his goal, I mean, it's a wonderful finish. So it's obviously something for Pickford to be thinking about, the way he can cut inside and bend the ball into the corner. We've seen that. We've seen Insigne do that in the Belgian game. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Italy set up for the final and whether or not they are, you know, just taking the game to England, or, as I said before, you know, just waiting for England to slip up and maybe try and catch them on the break. But another wonderful player for Italy, and one that's going to be in that side for the future. I think if you asked me to pick between the two, I think I'm a bit more excited about Pedri. I just think he has this Iniesta way of playing. I think he's very much, despite the fact that he wasn't, you know, he hasn't, you know, been brought up at La Masia. I think he has that Barcelona DNA, and you can really see why Barcelona went for him. I think they're both exciting players, but for me, I think Pedri is going to be the one that we're talking about maybe a bit more moving forward in the future.
So somebody else who's been spoken about quite a bit during the tournament is Jorginho. I think when he plays in the Premier League, he's quite underrated, maybe because his skill set doesn't necessarily translate, or he doesn't do the types of things that people get excited about. You know, Conte is an all action type of player, but Jorginho has his role too. And he's played his role quite well for Italy. And after, you know, he makes the penalty in his typical Jorginho style hop, skip, and a jump, it goes into the back of the net, and they move on to the final. There was some talk about maybe Jorginho being a contender for the Ballon d'Or if he's able to win the Euros with Italy, as well as the Champions League with Chelsea. Is that rubbish to you? Like, what do you think about that? I mean, I'm thinking like, hold your horses, but some people actually think he should be in contention for the Ballon d'Or.
I mean, I can understand why he's in contention now. I mean, if you think that before the season started, I think you'd been hard pressed to find anybody who would have said Chelsea would win the Champions League. And even before the Euro started, a lot of us tipped Italy as a dark horse. But there's one thing for being a dark horse and one thing for actually backing up and getting to a final. And he has been integral for both Chelsea winning the Champions League and for Italy getting to the final. I just think he's a brilliant player, really controls and dictates the tempo of play. And you can see why he starts for Chelsea and why he starts for Italy. And I think, yeah, that midfield battle for me is going to be very interesting in the way that England try and stop him from getting the ball and from passing it around and really controlling the tempo of the play. So I'd be very interested to see if Kane drops deep to sit on Jorginho and to stop him from receiving the ball and then, getting it out as Italy try and break. So he's very, very important for Italy. And you never know, if they win it, then why not, really?
Yeah, I mean, I do rate him as a player. I really do. I think Chelsea fans, just maybe like a little bit harsh on him, but Ballon d'Or, we'll see about that. But let's move into England versus Denmark, which, look, England, they haven't been in that position this entire tournament because obviously they haven't been scored on. And when Denmark scored Damsgaard, that was such a nice goal. I think you could probably maybe look at Pickford and say, like, maybe you should have been in a different position. But ultimately, I thought that was a very nice free kick. And then England go down a goal. What were you thinking when they went down a goal? Were you thinking, no problem, they'll sort it out? Or were you thinking this might be the moment, where maybe they go out, maybe they're not able to come back?
I actually thought it was the best thing that could happen to them, because if you've got all the way to the final without any mishaps, without any problems, and then you fall behind to an Italian side or the Spanish side, even if they'd got through in the final at Wembley Stadium in front of that entire crowd, having not got to a final for this many years, and all that pressure that would be on the side, for you to experience that for the first time in a final, I would think would be very hard for this English team, for any side, really. So I think going behind to Denmark was a blessing for them, because it's allowed them to, respond to a setback. How do they deal with the pressure of being 1-0 down in a semi-final with everything that's riding on, the outcome of this game? This isn't a group stage game. This is, win or bust, really. So I think it was the best thing that could happen to them. And I think they just, responded brilliantly. I think they got their equaliser, 9 minutes later? And yeah. I think England deserved to go through ultimately. I don't know if the penalty should have been given. First of all, I don't think it was a penalty. And second of all, there was a second ball on the field as well. So really the game should have stopped, because you can't have two balls on the field for obvious reasons. But I think ultimately England did deserve to win, created enough chances, and we just really started to see Denmark tire in the second half. And, they made a few changes. Striger Larsen, go on.
And Dolberg. I was actually shocked at that. I thought, is he trying to sit on this lead? Or because I think at that point they were still ahead by 1 or something like that. I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand what they were doing, but I agree with you that I think ultimately England was the better team, but depending on how you feel about contact in the box and whether players should be embellishing, I do think there was contact for Sterling's the second goal, the penalty. But yeah, it didn't look great. It didn't look
great.
What
I found hilarious about that was a lot of the Italian media has been picking up on this penalty that they think wasn't a penalty as well. But actually, if you reflect on the Italy game against Belgium, when Immobile went down trying to con the referee for a penalty, Italy then scored, and then immediately he got up. And I'm thinking, well, hang on, you can't really be criticizing Sterling if your player's doing the exact same thing.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think Denmark just tired, and you saw a few players go off through injury. The likes of Christensen, Delaney went off as well before extra time. And you could just really start to see them tire, whereas England just, the changes that Gareth Southgate made just really freshened up the attack. I thought Grealish did really well when he came on. Foden came on as well. And then he made a big call to take Grealish off and go to 5 at the back to kind of counter the way Denmark were going for, the equaliser to take it to penalties. So I think, again, all the decisions Southgate made were really good. And I think he'll actually privately, and I don't know if he's spoken about it today, will be quite pleased that they have recovered from being behind. because I think now going into the final, if you're chasing the game, if Italy score first, that's an experience that they can draw on. That we've been here, we've done that, we've come from behind and won a game, and we can do it again, arguably against a difficult, an even tougher opponent.
Just before we kind of move to our predictions, for the next games or the next game, it's just one more game left. It's flown by. But so I just have to get this one in here. I do. So what was your feeling about Saka starting the semifinal? There was a lot of conversations about whether Sancho should continue to start. We really haven't seen a lot of Rashford either in this tournament, but seeing, especially for an Arsenal fan, we know how good Saka is, but even for us, it's like, wow, a semifinal, like, will the occasion get to him? And I do think it took him a minute to kind of get into the game, but ultimately he kind of got into it. And for me, Sterling, Kane, and Saka look really good as a three up top. What did you think about Saka's performance, his ability to get the assist for the own goal, and whether or not he should continue to start in the next game, knowing that the stakes are even higher? It's a final and he's 19.
Yeah, I think you're right. He did seem a bit nervous to start with, and then grew into the game, and we saw the Saka that we've seen at Arsenal, the player that is very much on the front foot, taking players on, beating players. And again, I think the decision was spot on. I think he's definitely in there on merit. And for the Denmark game, we've seen that Joachim Mæhle, the left wing back for Denmark, is really what has been for me their standout player. And I think Saka brings with him a bit more defensive responsibility and that defensive nous that you need from a player who's playing as a wide forward, but also has to come back and help out defensively. And he, I think, really neutralised that threat for Denmark. So I think it was the correct decision. Whether or not he starts the final is another question. But if you look at his performances so far, he's in there on merit. And I don't think anybody would be surprised or begrudge him if Southgate picks him to start the final. But the one thing I would say is I don't believe that Southgate has ever picked the same team for England. He's always made a change. So with that in mind, I wouldn't be surprised if against this Italian side, you really do need to keep the ball well. That midfield three that we talked about earlier, Barella, Jorginho, Verratti, you have to keep the ball well against the Italians. You can't lose the ball and be sloppy in possession. So I think possibly someone like Foden off the right, someone who is a bit better with the ball than Saka, despite Saka's more direct than Foden, I think. He's in there, to get behind, use his pace. I think someone like Foden can control the ball better, can get into those pockets a bit better than Saka maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the change, but by the same token, I think Saka's been superb for England, and if he starts, he will be a threat to that Italian back line. And then also we have to add in. Sorry, just lastly, with Emerson as well. They've lost Spinazzola, who's been superb for Italy. So that is a weakness for me in that Italian side, with Emerson at fullback. I thought he played okay against Spain. I don't think he was bad, but I'm sure Southgate is targeting the fullback positions on either side. For me, is where you can expose Italy and get in behind them. So do you go someone with that pace, Saka, or do you go someone with a bit more guile like Foden? It'll be interesting to see what Southgate does.
It is interesting, and I think the way that Italy plays kind of plays straight into the best England for me, which is very defensively sound, and then it's quite direct on the counterattack type of team. Not necessarily super counterattack, like sit back in your box, but win the ball and then try to attack quickly with Sterling and Saka running up to the fullbacks. And I think Saka would be better for that. But again, if for some reason England feels like they may have a little bit more of the ball and want to keep it, maybe then Foden would be better. But maybe the change is not in the front line. Maybe it's in the midfield. We saw that Henderson came in the semifinal. And I personally felt the midfield control was a lot better with Henderson in there with Calvin Phillips versus Phillips and Declan Rice. Do you think Henderson maybe start the final, especially with a little bit more experience, somebody who's a known leader? Do you think he might be somebody that will come in the final? And because I thought he was quite good, you know, in the semifinal when he came in.
I think that's absolutely spot on. I think when you look at that Italian, I mean, Barella is quite young. We can't forget that. But Jorginho and Verratti have been around for a long time and are very experienced players. And I think you might just need a bit more experience in that midfield. But I'm not sure if he would drop either of those two. I think he could spring a surprise and play all three, because England don't have to win this immediately. You know, you just want to stay. Ultimately, you want to stay in the game. You don't want to be chasing a game. And so I wouldn't be surprised if all three started. And then you have the impact subs if he decides that he's not going to play, you know, Saka, for instance, because you could easily put Sterling over to the right, bring Mount off the left as he's done for Chelsea occasionally, and then play Henderson, Rice and Phillips in midfield with Saka, with Sancho, with Grealish and Foden as players that can come off the bench. So yeah, I can see Henderson starting, absolutely, because you're going to need that experience. The one thing I would say, if you play those three, and if you bear in mind the way that England got their equaliser against Denmark, Kane dropped in and played that beautiful pass into Saka. And I think when Kane drops deep like that, to then provide a pass out wide for Saka, Sterling, whoever it is, if you've only then got Sterling going into the box, you miss that. You're going to have either Calvin Phillips or Henderson with the license to get into the box to have an extra body in there if Kane is dropping deep. So, I mean, it's an interesting one for Southgate. I can see all three starting, to be honest.
What about Kieran Trippier? I mean, he's up on the screen, and I think Southgate tends to lean on him in moments where he needs a little bit more experience and somebody that can, you know, maybe just calm the troops down, you know, give them a little bit of that balance. So maybe he comes in the final and plays in this 3-4-3 formation as kind of like a right wing back. You know, do you think Trippier is a good person to maybe bring in and give some more solidity, or do you think you roll with a 4-3-3 and just go for it?
It's a big call to change the formation now, I think. With Italy, you know, it's only really Immobile up front for them. And if you've got three centre-backs trying to occupy him, I think you're losing a body in midfield and, you know, by definition, attack as well. So I think it would be a big call for Southgate to then change his formation. You know, they're in the final on merit. They're in the final having played four at the back, apart from the one game where they started with the three. I expect him to go with four at the back. And we've seen what Trippier can do from set pieces. We've seen him come on in extra time against Denmark and really solidify that team. So if that is the case, if we see a repeat of what happened with Denmark, I would expect him to, you know, possibly come on, and, you know, if it does go to penalties, he'd absolutely be one of the ones taking a penalty for me. So if he starts, I think that's a big call, because I think you lose the attacking threat that, you know, a midfielder or an attacker gives you by default. So I'm not expecting. I mean, I'm probably going to sound like an idiot here if he now goes with three at the back, but I'm expecting him to go with four at the back.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And to be honest, like, I mean, he has some big calls to make, but at the same time, I feel like the team has been playing so well that even if you did see a little bit of a shift, I don't think I would be so like worried about it, because a lot of these players have come in and even in bit part roles have been good. I thought Trippier's been good when he did come in. Henderson was good when he came in. So as a unit, I think the team is quite good, even if you do make some changes. But for some reason, I feel like it's going to be that same front three. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then I think something will happen in the midfield, maybe, if something does happen. But I do have to say that, just as a sidebar, I thought Walker, Stones, and Maguire were very good in the semifinal. And Walker, he does get a little bit of flack on social media. I just think maybe some people want to see something different. Maybe he clicks off, but I thought he was really good. You know, in the semifinal for England, who are you most impressed by?
I thought Raheem Sterling was superb once again for England. I thought Denmark couldn't. I just don't think Denmark could handle his pace, and, you know, his ability to kind of drop deep and pick up the ball and run at the Italian back line, at the Danish back line, I think is going to scare the Italian back line for sure. Bonucci and Cellini aren't the quickest of players, and neither are the three in midfield. They're not known for their pace, and I think that is what could trouble Italy really. That raw pace that Sterling and Saka have to get in behind inside on those flanks and hopefully get the ball into Harry Kane. So I think Sterling for me was a standout player for England.
I agree. So we're going to move on a little bit and talk about the predicted polls that we have going on the different pages for WeShow Football. So if Tom is ready behind the scenes,
Who's winning, Jess?
let's put up the one for Instagram. Let's do that one first. So this is the predicted poll for the WeShow Football Instagram page, and yeah, it looks like most of the people that voted here think Italy is going to win. I don't know about that. England at 20, what is that, 28%? It's quite low, you guys. I don't know if you guys are trolling or not, but I don't think Italy is that big of favorites where it's like, that's really bad. So, Tom, if you want to go ahead and put up the poll for the community page on YouTube as well. You have one there too. Yep, there it is. This one's a lot closer. England at 47% and Italy at 53%. That's about what I would think. It has to be a lot closer, right? Maybe Italy has just slight favorites, maybe just a little bit because they've been maybe the best team in the tournament, but this seems a little bit more realistic, doesn't it?
I think so, yeah. I think Italy are the favourites, marginally. I don't think we've seen anything from them that would really, really trouble England. I don't think there is that much of a gap between the two nations. So I would say Italy are marginally favourites going into the final, but it's probably better to be the underdog with the backing of the Wembley crowd.
Yeah, I think so, and that I just think that it is better to be the underdog, and I think England will like to kind of sit in that seat, and Italy will have to come out and really show what they have, and I predict it to be a quite close game, but to be honest, my predictions haven't been that good. We all know we've been playing the game this entire time, and I'm losing pretty badly. So let's go ahead and make our prediction for the final. And again, you guys, basically how it works is correct prediction is worth 3 points, a correct outcome, but incorrect time frame is worth 1 point, and incorrect prediction gets 0. Let's see if Tom puts up yep. I am still, second to last place. David is winning. So what's your prediction, David? What do you think?
I've thought long and hard about this one. I think it's going to go all the way to penalties. I don't know if either team. I'm not expecting either team to, go all guns blazing from the get-go, and try and get ahead and maybe try and get a second goal and kill the game. I think Italy have gradually got a bit more defensive, and I think England will try and play the same way they've played, throughout the tournament, really. So I think it could possibly go all the way. So I'm going to go penalties, and unfortunately, I think Italy on penalties.
Oh, wow. So it's not coming home.
I hope I'm wrong, but
man.
That's my prediction.
Okay. I'm going to go Italy in extra time.
Oh.
Italy in extra time. I just think they have just that little bit extra, like even when they're not playing great, they have an individual brilliant moment like they have with Chiesa. So it's not that I don't think England is good, and I think England will have there'll be still something there, but it's just something about Italy. I think they're just a little bit stronger, and I don't think it'll go all the way to penalties. I think they'll get a goal in extra time, just that little bit of a push. So we'll see. Hopefully, let's see if I get these 3 points, I still won't win. So I think you pretty much won at this point. So yeah. But before we go, I just wanted, because somebody had asked in the chat box, who do you think is going to get highest goal, or who will be top goal scorer? What do you think, David?
Well, Kane has 4 now, so he's 1 away from leveling up with Ronaldo and Patrick Schick. I can see Kane scoring tomorrow. I can see Kane scoring on Sunday. Whether or not he gets 2, I mean, if he gets 2 goals, that would be, the stats tell us surely that that's, heavily in England's favour to win the game. But I think he'll get 1 and maybe finish level with Ronaldo and Schick.
It's crazy how long Portugal has been out of this, but Cristiano Ronaldo is still up there. So, but yeah, I think Kane will get at least 1 goal, and I think in a couple of weeks, I'll be so against Kane, it's ridiculous, because obviously we'll be back into club football. But I did think it was just a little bit harsh how people in the beginning of the tournament were saying that maybe that Dominic Calvert-Lewin should be playing, drop Kane. I think now that's been proven that you just have to give, players like him a chance to just kind of get into it. And since, he scored his first goal, I think he's been quite good, even like dropping in and creating chances. So I would back him to get another goal, maybe not 2, but at least 1. And we'll see what happens at the end of the tournament and see where he stands. But that's going to be it for the show today. I think we did a good job. Rob didn't come, but I think we still did a good job. He's quite busy. I mean, you can imagine at this point, he's probably pretty busy. But that's it for me. I'm Jessica Black. You can find me on Twitter at It's Jorginho. And thank you to David Gerges, who you can find on Twitter at DavidGerges86. Thank you for everybody joining us today. We'll have our final episode for you on Monday, the 12th of July, to decompress after Euro 2020 final at Wembley on Sunday, July 11th. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.